Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength BodCast. Hey everyone, Happy New Year. It is 2021. So I thought the best way to start out a new year would be to interview a guest that is full of rainbows and sunshine. I am talking today with PJ Olsen, and her laugh and smile is contagious. She is a trainer out of Nashville. She works with Parkinson's patients and other people that just want to restore their health and regain their lives back. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss PJ Olsen. So PJ, I do know that you have wonderful stories about working with Parkinson's patients and stuff. And but before we do that, you're kind of fascinating to me also because you used to be in the music industry,
Yes.
and
Yes.
now you're like an amazing life changer, personal trainer
Thank you.
or health coach. I don't want to just call you a personal trainer because you're so much more than that.
Yeah.
Um, but you've got a story. How do you go from being in the music industry to working with Parkinson's patients?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've always been a really active person. Being active it's my lifestyle. I have to move in order to feel good, and I never really thought about that. I just knew that I love to train with a personal trainer. I love to run. I love to do all the things. And I think that's what got so frustrating. And as I started hitting like age 50, was I was doing all the things that they tell you to do to stay healthy. And I was doing it again because I enjoyed it. But also, too, there was a part of me that said, PJ, you're not getting younger. You got to keep those bones strong. You got to keep that heart, the heart lung capacity good. So I was paying a trainer twice a week to work out. And then I was running on other days. But at the time, my music industry job had moved from being out on the road to being seated at a desk all day long behind a computer. And uh, our company, the last company I worked for, I loved them, but we were a little bit on the chintzy side of supplying the employees with the proper setups. And so instead of getting us a nice ergonomically set up uh, thing, desk and computer for me, they had me on this glass top table with no drawer for the keyboard, no, lift for the computer screen. And so my whole body, especially when you're sitting there for hours on end, uh, researching and then writing reports, all the things that you're supposed to do with deadlines, it started to take a toll on my body, but I didn't know it. Again, I did not know it. Nobody ever said at that point, no one said smoking's the new sitting. Or I'm sorry, sitting's the new smoking. I knew I'd get that right. So actually, it could be either way, right?
Yeah, I can see that street could run both ways.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I would just get so intent on my reports that the next thing I'd know, I'd be like, oh, I need a drink of water. I need to use the restroom. And then I look at my watch, like, how has 3 hours gone by? And so it just, it always feels like that, just that one day, we always go that, I don't know what I did that one moment in time, that one day. And I remember getting out of my chair to go to the fax machine to pick something up. And I literally had to push my way out of the chair. And then even when I got up, I was bent over. Um, I mean, everything just hurt. My back hurt, my hips hurt, everything hurt. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? I'm doing all the things. And so I, limped over to the fax machine, went back and sat down, and I just said, holy cow, what has happened to me? And so at that point, I started doing the next round of things that you do, and that's start to go see the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, the active release guy, the massage therapist. I mean, there was one year where I actually had a calendar I had to fill out with all the appointments I had with each of these practitioners, because when it came to my tax return, of course, these were alternative therapists I was seeking for the most part, because I certainly was not going to have any kind of surgery. That was not even an option. Um, that I needed this calendar to fill out so that I could submit it to my accountant to, yes, I really did spend all this money and time, seeking help to get my body back to where it had been my whole life, which was a healthy, strong version um, of myself. And suddenly here I was at age 50 and not that person anymore. So that's kind of how it started, and that's when I actually found David Whitley for teaching kettlebells because I knew I had to change things up. And so that was the first thing the first change I made, which was significant because the learning how to swing a kettlebell and just work with a kettlebell started to strengthen parts of my body that none of the personal training or running had done. And then we kind of went from there because, as you know, David also loves movement. And so he always had us doing mobility drills. And of course, he had borrowed from probably, I don't know, RKC or somebody back then, their warm up. And then we moved on to Primal Move, which you remember was a Hungarian movement program, and they brought over the United States. And David and I both got certified. And that from that point, when that kind of didn't really, there was really no support here in the U.S. for it. And that's when David said, Jeff Newport has this guy, this friend, Tim Anderson. And they've got this program called Original Strength. Actually, I think it was called Becoming Bulletproof at the time. And he said,
Yes.
I'm thinking about bringing in a workshop here to Nashville. What do you think about that? And then I said, sounds good to me. And then that really was where it started. That was like truly the beginning of how I really, first of all, learned how my body was designed to move so it could heal itself. And then from there, I wanted to take that and what I knew about strength with kettlebells, and I wanted to help my friends. It was only about my friends at that point. I wanted to be able to teach them how to safely get their bodies moving again and get strong so that they can live out their lives in a really grand fashion, I guess, off into the sunset with strong bodies. So,
So, but eventually you made the decision though to, like, your passion for moving and helping other people move, you made the decision to walk away
yeah,
from your radio or your music, the music industry. That's not
yeah,
radio, the
yeah.
music industry.
Yeah, I was in radio at one point, but that was even longer ago than that. Well, yeah, it's funny because I always tell people I chose to leave the music industry, but then I always have like, well, actually, the music industry chose to leave me. It was kind of a simultaneous. Um, the company I was working for the last 8 years was closing its doors. So there was no longer going to be a job for me there. But I remember being told by the general manager, I was actually working at home the day he called to say, I'm so sorry to do this, but we've had some financial struggles and we're no longer going to get the financial support. We're closing our doors, which means I have to tell you that in 6 weeks you don't have a job anymore. This is the end of 2014. And instead of being sad about it, I actually laughed out loud. Not the most normal response to losing one's job. But my heart had just been so much into teaching because as David Whitley had allowed me to teach at his gym. So I was teaching. I think by the time I left the music industry, I had already taught like over 200 classes
Wow.
under him of all people. This grandmaster of kettlebells, this strong man, allowing me to teach his clients. Of course, it was the 6 a.m. class that he didn't want to teach anymore, but regardless, I was able to start teaching. I really found that I loved teaching. I loved teaching in a manner that's similar to his, similar but different. The thing I loved about him was that I always felt like I was getting an education. Always, and he always came back to that strength is a skill, and which I never had heard that before him. Um, and I took that idea because it's so true. I mean, even though I've been strength training for years, my body was not overly strong, in spite of everything I'd done. I mean, it was healthy, but it was not strong. And just with the way he approached fitness and strength was that concept of less is more, and then just truly learning how you were supposed to be moving. So between the original strength that he finally added in after your workshop came to town, and then incorporating that into the kettlebell skills, it really just became a wow, I can do this 3 times a week for 30 minutes each time and like have this amazingly strong body that doesn't break. And so, yeah, so when I had the opportunity to leave behind my 30-year career, um, which felt a little scary at the moment, but at the same time, my heart was fully invested in, I want to help people. I know people love the music industry, and I loved it. I had a great time, but it really was not fulfilling I guess, my spiritual needs. Um, I couldn't think about I couldn't really think, how am I impacting others' lives with that particular job? I just couldn't find the why, the big why, any longer. And with turning over into this area of health and wellness, it just filled me up. Just even the very first client I got, even though I really didn't know what I was doing, just taking what I learned and trying it to apply it to this woman and how her body was designed to move. And but just even seeing, just at the end of a 1 hour session, just her going, wow, my back doesn't hurt anymore. you know just even those little bitty things, I just went, you just be like, oh, this is so great. This is so great that I can actually show somebody how they too can just go, my body doesn't hurt. I can move, I can be strong. So that's I never really looked back after that. I put my stake in the sand and just said, here's what I'm doing. So I made sure that there was no going back. How that goes, make that commitment out loud. And then just prayed that I could figure out how to turn it into um, a real business, a real career. Yeah, so
And
that's how I made the
and you
shift.
and you have, though, you've turned it into a real business and a career.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely taken a lot of turns. So I'm sure you remember probably from your start. You have this vision, this dream of what you think it's going to look like, um, and I just put it out there to see who I would attract. And I will say though that I went through. There was definitely some of evolution as I went along. I found that the first few clients really were not the ones I wanted to work with so much because I couldn't I couldn't motivate them to do anything in between the weekly sessions. And you and I both know this has to be a consistent, regular practice in order for the body um, to benefit fully from what the original strength has to offer, any kind of strength program. And so I kind of changed my messaging on my website and didn't really spell out like, hey, you have to come in motivated to help yourself. But I think just the way I started talking about who I was best able to help, the people who were started to find me, probably just even a few years ago, were those who truly feel like they have tried everything. Like I almost become like the last resort for some of these people. Um, so yeah, so even though I was kind of zeroing in on that 50 plus age group, yeah, that's a very large part of the population that has all kinds of different things going on. But the ones that truly wanted to have a healthy life moving forward and to be able to do all those things that they love to do that they had to shelf in the meantime because of a shoulder, a hip, a neck, you name it, the body part, and the fear that comes from pain. um, they were the ones that started kind of coming to me with all this. I have this shoulder, I have this hip, I have this, you name the body part. But as you and I both know, the great thing about original strength is that all the resets help to just get the body, the nervous system stronger so that it can start moving better. And then all of a sudden that hip, shoulder, neck, whatever it was, suddenly isn't such a big issue. And that's when I just started thinking, every new client that came in, just in a 1 hour session, that complimentary, well, it's supposed to be 45 minutes. Actually, it was supposed to be 30, then it became 45, then it became an hour. But the great thing is that they usually they bought in that hour because of how different they felt from the minute they came in to when they left. And then next thing you know, they're buying a 4 or 8 session package. And that's when the real magic happens, when they will come in, at least 4 times. I prefer 8, 6 to 8. But I will say that even though the few that did just only buy 4, they could see the possibilities. That was the thing that they left with on the 4th session. They could see the possibilities, and that's usually why people buy 4 and then they buy 4 more, because they get to that 4th one, they can see the possibilities, and they're like, "What else is available to me?" And then and then yes, and then a lot of times they leave after 8. But the great thing is, I know that they've gone back. They've gotten back into their bicycling, or they're back into hiking, or they're, gotten back into a kayak, after 2 years of not being in one.
That's
It's
awesome. So
very rewarding.
but you're doing something that's really cool because you're able to help people in a fairly brief time return to the life that they want to live,
Yeah,
which means you're doing your job.
yeah, 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 yeah. I had to get used to the fact that, and that's why I always tell people I hesitate to call myself a personal trainer, because I always think of personal trainer, someone comes in twice a week and they just want you to motivate them and put them through the drills and whatever. And I only have a handful of clients that have stayed with me. And I always tell people up front, look, you might be that person that comes in for 4 sessions. You might be the person that actually, like most of them, buy another 4 sessions. And then maybe that's it. Or you might be the person that decides you want the weekly accountability, and maybe to then take it to the next level of actually being able to train, but in a functional way that keeps them injury free. And so I got used to the fact very quickly that I was just always going to have to be finding new clients, which can get pretty scary. You and I both know, when you're, looking for income, but at the same time, those people leave and then they will refer somebody else. And so it's really the referrals that have started to build my business, just based on the success that others have experienced with this very simple system. Yeah.
But you also seem to have found a niche with Parkinson's patients.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did they find you, and how did you develop that niche, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. My mom had had Alzheimer's for the last 10 years of her life. Obviously very different from Parkinson's, but still a neurological disorder that they have no cure for. The difference was I couldn't help my mom because there's really no slowing the progression of Alzheimer's or even reversing it. What I learned about Parkinson's was that it could be slowed. The progression could be slowed and in some cases reversed. And I thought, what a great group of people to help by using, these skills that I had learned with original strength and just strength training overall in a functional manner. So I had, it was kind of a little bit of a slow process because I was very unsure of my ability to help this group. A little scary, they have a lot of balance issues. So that, just even the thought of them falling in my presence was a little bit overwhelming. But one gentleman came to town that from upstate New York, that did nothing but train people with Parkinson's, and he came in to actually teach a course here in Nashville. And so I attended that, and then still not feeling confident about it, a physical therapist from Seattle came in, taught another course, and I took that because you have to keep learning, right? It's never the
Yes.
right time. And so I learned a little bit more from her, and then I became familiar. Actually, there's someone in the kettlebell world that had attended Rock Steady Boxing coaching certification up in Indianapolis. Fabulous organization. They really have taken that group of people and create, well, they initially started create, it was created just for Indianapolis, just for this one specific group of people. But then when they were featured on national TV a few years back, they started getting calls from all over the country saying, hey, well, where's our gym? Like, what do you mean, where's our gym? Our gym's right here. We're in Indianapolis. And so they developed a coaching program. And basically, you just came in for 2.5 days and they taught you a lot about Parkinson's. And then we had the benefit of walking out into their gym and learning how they, very specifically, how they trained their Parkinson's clients, whether it was someone just recently diagnosed all the way to the person that was in a wheelchair. And just a really marvelous program, great people. And when I got done with that, I thought, okay, you need to do something with all this knowledge you've gained. You know, you've gone to 3 different things, all very great. You have all this information. Now you actually have to work with these people. So I found another Rocksteady Boxing affiliate in Nashville and called them. Actually, I walked in their door and I said, I just came from the coaching camp. Can I like volunteer with you just to kind of get in and help, you know, see how a class runs before I think about starting my own? And they're like, yeah, we could use the help. So I worked there for about 3 months, a couple times a week, and started to feel more comfortable with, you know, just being able to be around these people and what could happen in potentially in a class, so I could be aware. And then I found a facility that I was able to rent, and I went over there and I was going to start my own classes, and the heater in the gym was broken the whole winter. Not great for people with a neurological disease that when it's 5 degrees in the gym. So I hesitated. I didn't start the classes, and finally, I think it was February of 2018. I was at a networking event, and I kept talking to people about what I was going to do. Here's what I plan on teaching. Here's what I'm going to do. And finally, this gal just looked at me as I was leaving a network event, and she just turned and she said, PJ, you have to start those classes. People need you. And it was just like this whole, like her eyes had gotten really wild. And I'm like, who's talking to me? What spirit just came out of her body? But as I walked out, I thought, she's right. People need this. People need what I have to offer. And it was funny how that happened, because like literally, I think it was the next day or the day after, my phone rang, and it was a gentleman, and he just was like, hi, this is Bill. Parkinson's classes. And I'm like, excuse me, can you repeat all that? And it was a 77-year-old gentleman, had just come back from the neurologist at Vanderbilt, who had just told him he had Parkinson's disease. Oh, by the way, you might want to check out this Rocksteady Boxing program, which I was affiliated with at the time. And there's only a few here in town, but I was the one closest to his home. And so all he wanted to know is, when did the classes start? And I said, how about on Monday? And that's how it all began.
Right on. So where has it gone from that? Like, tell me some good stories.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, the original strength, which I was quite sure from everything that I'd seen on our alumni page for original strength, I felt really confident that the original strength was going to be key for these people with their balance issues, their balance and coordination issues. Beyond that, I really wasn't sure. One thing that became very clear to me quickly was that this gentleman, as well as the gentleman who came a few weeks after him, neither one of them wanted to box. So here I was with this Rocksteady Boxing thing, and they didn't want to box. And I thought, well, what exercises are you going to give to somebody? The ones they're going to do. So I just thought, you know what? I'm not so proud that I have, just because I've got this Rocksteady Boxing affiliation, that I have to have them boxing. And so we did do a little bit of work on the speed bag. I will say that we did do that just because of the hand-eye coordination aspect. But I really started them with the original strength. I wanted them down on the floor, because with Parkinson's, the fear of falling is great because that's their balance is really off. They always feel like they're going to fall backwards. So then they round forwards, and so then you get this whole postural thing going on, and just their whole balance and coordination gets off. And so I wanted them down on the floor. So I bought a couple of those fancy Dollarmer mats to have plenty of padding under their knees and their backs. And I just started them off with just the basics of original strength, the diaphragmatic breathing, teaching them how to breathe properly. And then just the movement of the eyes and the heads, stimulating the vestibular system and the rocket. I mean, just all of it. Very, very basic because their mind body connection is not great. There's a reason why they consider Parkinson's a movement disorder disease. So they're just their whole awareness of how their body, even between the head and the toes, everything in between, was just there. There just was not a lot of awareness there. So spent a lot of time with that. That was probably the hardest part for them, was actually rediscovering how their bodies were designed to move because they were so disconnected from it. But then I started adding in, some, just your basic, uh, resistance band rows, and we had a wall, so we had a little wall ball, working on rotation patterns, and just anything, ropes, just anything that carries for sure to grip the strength grip. So it was really very functional strength training, but the first half hour is nothing but original strength on the mats, just exploring how they should move. And I guess the first thing that I became aware of that was just like a big aha was the client that started my classes for me. Um, he very quickly suddenly he just like walked in one day and he just looked taller. He looked taller, he looked more relaxed, he just looked more confident in his ability to just walk in the room. And he, it was kind of mind blowing to him how quickly he felt so much different than he'd had for the whole past year. um, Second gentleman, a little bit more work to do with him because he had really excessive postural issues, that that hunchback we know about, um, but the head nods. He was still all the way to the end. Every time we get a potential new client, he says, "Chin tucks and head nods. That's the key to your success." But he did. He changed his posture. I mean, the dramatic change in his posture, his ability to go on the golf course, which that's the whole reason he had come to me. I just want to be able to golf again. It was his true passion. And on his 78th birthday, he shot his age. That's how much change had
Wow.
transpired for him. And then the third person that came in, the gal, she was probably the most obvious of the changes because when she came in, very poor posture, no strength or coordination in her body. Even just having her roll from side to side looked painful to me. Um, it just really a body that just did not want to do any of this. And she didn't really want to do any of this, but she was a musician and she knew that if she wanted to keep playing her music, she was going to have to do something. And I'd say about 5 months in, I saw a shift in her. Like she suddenly was like, "I have more energy. I used to not be able to get out of bed easily to come to this class. Now I'm actually getting up early for it." So the energy shift, and then just even her posture started to change. She was actually able to lay her head back down on the mat without putting something under it for the first time. She hadn't been able to do that, and she couldn't even remember the last time. But the great thing came. She had been coming for a year, and she came in after Memorial Day weekend, looking all happy. And she says, "Guess what I did this weekend?" Turns out that she and her husband had stopped kayaking 2 years earlier because it was literally taking her 10 minutes to get into the kayak because of the balance issues. Very unsteady. It took 10 minutes. Then even when they rowed, she couldn't really contribute because of the lack of strength. So they actually had to get one of those kayaks where he could do all of it and she could just ride. not her idea of a fun time. And then it took 10 minutes to get out of the kayak just 2 years earlier. And she went off. Her husband talked her into trying it again. They still had the kayak. They went out to give it a try. She said she jumped into the kayak, was actually able to contribute to the rowing of the kayak. And then when they got back to shore, jumped right out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. 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 That's when you just go, this is why I do what I do. Yeah. People get their lives back. Yeah.
Yes. And I guess that is, I was going to ask you, you can a person not, I guess I don't want to, I want to use this loosely, but heal or recover or rebuild or get stronger, improve from Parkinson's?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's no question. I would say, it had a little shift this year, obviously, with the gyms closing. Um, so that was kind of disappointing to me because, we could get them to do the original strength stuff in their little spaces at home. Um, it was for Parkinson's part of the requirement to be able to slow the progression or actually turn or even possibly turn the disease back around is they need to get their heart rate up um, 20 minutes a day for a minimum, and there's a disagreement over 3 times a week or 5 times a week, but they got to do something about getting that heart rate up. This is where the real big bang for their buck comes. And we were doing that in the gym because I was able to have them slamming med balls and doing the ropes and doing all the things that got their heart rate up. A little more challenging now that we're home on Zoom. Can't ask them to throw 15 pounds against their wall in the living room. So finding ways to get their heart rate up has been challenging. We do what we can. We do marching and fast marching. We do slalom. Just that hip hinge thing for 2 minutes straight. Do we can, but we're definitely not doing 20 minutes. So this group that I'm working with currently, it's a small group on Zoom. Um, we're maintaining their strength, but I wouldn't say that we're improving their strength a whole lot. But I've had two come out of surgery and have to kind of start back over, come back into the class 10 days after a surgery, starting them in the chair when I've got, two others on the floor and I've got one in the chair, and then trying to get them all doing the same thing. But just even from the chair, I've seen really great recovery come just simply doing the resets in the chair. Um, Again, the heart rate part's the hardest part, but I have a 72-year-old woman I've been working with privately, and this one's probably been the one that I was like, is this going to be the time that it doesn't work? She had fallen numerous times. This is a woman who's a former executive for a big corporation. This woman was like, she had had a great, amazing life, and then she was struck down by Parkinson's, and was having a hard time dealing with it. And then she had fallen numerous times, and so by the time I got an email from her, she was pretty much in fear mode. So when I made the mistake of, I hate saying this, the little pamphlet that we have, pressing reset for, everybody, whatever. I had left that at her home before we had had our complimentary session, but we hadn't done anything. I had told her we were going to work from the chair initially, but that's all I left her with. So she gets this booklet, she opens up, she sees everything's on the floor. And so when we met for our very first session, eyes were this big. You could just see her body was braced, and she says, I don't think I can do this. I can't get down on the floor. I fell too many times. No. And I just said, we won't get down on the floor. Let's just start in the chair, see where it goes. And so definitely more challenges to this, because I'm thinking, how much can we do from the chair? What good is this gonna do any good? So we used my pool noodles for resistance because she had no strength. And then we just, we rocked, we rolled, we did what we could from the chair, and we met twice a week. But even by the time she came back the second time, the fear that had been in her eyes and her face were just gone, just magically gone. She'd been actually pressing reset in between our Monday session, our Thursday session. just the basic things from her chair, and everything. Her face looked relaxed, her eyes looked relaxed, her body looked relaxed. And she said, "This is like such great stuff. This seems just so easy." Well, not easy. She said it seems so simple, and I said it is simple, but not necessarily easy. She goes, "No, it's not. I'm not finding it easy at all." Then we met the following Monday, and she said her husband had already noticed a difference in her, and he had asked her about it. And I love what she said about the original strength. She said, "It's radical." So, but the beauty is that she just started gaining more and more strength and more confidence. And I think we stayed in the chair for the first 6 weeks. We met twice a week. And then I think it was the sixth week, I said, "Can we get out of the chair? Can we get up on our feet and work a little bit?" And she said, "I think I can." And so she had her walker there, but we've gotten up now every single session for 15 minutes spent on her feet, and just her whole balance, her coordinate, just the way her whole body appears is just light years from where we had started 2 months ago. So the hope is that she'll actually get outside, and she's got a steep stairway. I said, "Have your husband drive you down to the bottom of the driveway because it is super steep." And I said, "And then once you get down there, just go for a little walk. Just go for a little walk." So that's her plan. That's her goal, is to get out and be able to walk without that walker.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's really great stuff. Yeah.
So, if where do you go from here? Like, obviously, you found a passion for helping people with Parkinson's.
Yeah. 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 This again. This year has created some challenges that I didn't foresee. None of us did, right? When we're trying to teach fitness, I've been impressed with how much we've been able to accomplish through a computer screen. Um, it's obviously a little bit harder to see people how they're moving sometimes, like the little nuances. You're kind of like staring at the screen, like, are they, are their hips moving before their shoulders? What's going on in there? Um, but at the same time, I feel like it's actually allowed me to really reach beyond Nashville. Even though I have gotten quite a few Nashville people, I was actually able to work with a woman in the UK with MS recently,
Wow.
which was really exciting. That's the first person with MS I've been able to work with. But I love how certain resets really have worked well. And then trying to, discover for her what what doesn't work so well initially, um, and so that we can just strengthen the nervous system without having to go into those areas that created the dizziness or whatever was happening. Um, so that kind of opened my eyes when I was with between that and then the little movement classes I teach 3 times a week, which came as a result of Danny, your partner, putting a challenge out to all of us alumni to at the beginning of this pandemic to reach out to our community to help them move, just start moving again, because people were just sitting in their homes. And so I don't know, something about her enthusiasm was so infectious that I was like, okay, then I'm just going to do it. And then I put it out into Facebook and then went, oh no, that means I have to do this. So after 6 weeks of teaching 15-minute sessions for free and actually starting to get a following, thanks to you all promoting my class, I ended up with a couple of women from the Netherlands, someone in Hawaii, I have New Jersey,
Wow.
Missouri, Texas. I've got them California, from all over. So I turned that into 25-minute sessions, and which will continue. It's helped a woman with hip replacement, just who had recently had a hip replacement. I've had a woman cancel an epidural she thought she needed before she started the movement class, and then next thing she's like, I don't need that anymore. And so yeah, it's given these women a class that it's not yoga per se. It's a combination of resets and yoga influence movements that just gets them moving and breathing for 25 minutes. It just lets off the brakes and ends up with just a nice, a good feeling body that just is strengthening their nervous systems and getting them back out and being active again. Parkinson's, I'm hoping to work with more privately, I think. Um, they just all have such different things going on that the class setting on the computer is pretty challenging. It was actually pretty challenging in the gym too. At one point, I had 5 clients, and I felt like I was running 5 classes.
I get that.
So it was a very fast moving 75 minutes for me anyway. I was out of breath almost the whole time. But I do feel like even though I love to reach more people, and maybe that is through creating an on-demand class possibly, that is based on different levels, just to be able to get out to more people. But really, what I really love is when someone like this 72-year-old woman, or even the first couple of gentlemen that came, they're just so determined to not allow this disease to control their life. Yeah, they want to take control back from it and not let it dictate how they live out the rest of their lives. And when they come in with that kind of motivation, determination, it's just fun to work with them. It's just so much more fun and enjoyable when somebody actually comes in like going, teach me, show me what to do, because I'll do it all. Yeah.
It does make a difference, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's really neat though. So instead of getting locked down in Nashville because of COVID, it actually brought you international. It
Yeah.
took you out of
Yeah.
Nashville
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. To everywhere. Yeah. And I think, as you have probably found, that when you realize that you have this large scope of people, because not everyone that has a shoulder, neck, back issue lives in Nashville. There's people, even within Nashville, when I was at the gym, our traffic had become quite chaotic here, because the city grew so fast. So somebody that was even 15 miles away, they're like, really, you're over in West Nashville? I don't think I can get there. And so it was really inhibiting my ability to get out to the people who really needed me. Um, and so this allows, as long as they're open to the idea of that this can work via Zoom. I've got plenty of case studies to provide them with if they have any question about that. But yeah, it just opens up an opportunity to so many more people, and obviously it also then gives me an opportunity to help that many more.
So
Which
if somebody wants to join your 25-minute movement class, or say they want to learn more about how, living with Parkinson's or overcoming Parkinson's, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is restorativestrength.com. Obviously, the name of my company is Restorative Strength. Um, they can go to my website, and then there's actually a contact PJ little tab there. And they can go down, and there's just a little area they can fill in their name and their email address. And then there's a little drop down that says, I'm interested in learning more about. And I always offer a complimentary session to anyone who wants to talk about their situation, to see how we might be able to work together. So yeah, the first 30 minutes, totally on me. And no obligation from that point on. It's either they think this is for me, or it's not for me, or maybe the time's not right, or maybe the time's perfect. But yeah, so restorativestrength.com is where they can go to, and then just link onto the contact PJ, and I'll be happy to answer questions about any of my offerings.
PJ, you're also offering a course coming out soon. What is that about?
Yeah. So I had used to teach a class at our community education. And it was just, I think I called it Reset, Restore, Rejuvenate. It really was just, for people that, um, they didn't really want to take a true yoga class, but they knew that they wanted some movement of some sort. And of course, I had put it out there that this would actually help them create a strong, resilient body. So, in a classroom setting, I might have 9 people for it. Then, of course, the classes got shut down. We couldn't meet in person. So, um, as time went by, I thought, this class really is just so important to these people. In my 25-minute movement class, I can't really spend the time I want educating people about why we're doing specific moves, because I'm busy cueing them so that they can just lay on the floor and just follow along with my cues. It's hard to interject about the vestibular system, or, why we roll, and that kind of thing. And I kept thinking, people really need to understand. I know I needed to understand why I was doing something so I would keep doing it, which is where a lot of our practitioners fall down. They don't really educate people why they're doing something. And so it just dawned on me once I was online teaching the movement class and actually reaching people around the globe, that, well, why don't I put together something that I can create, much like the community education class, but then make it available to whoever wants to purchase it. So it's a going to be a 4 module digital course um, that is really just very simplified. So it's really down to the basics, but it's a lot of what I teach in my movement class, but broken down with instruction and education as well, so that people will actually not only understand as we're practicing each of these movements or poses, dynamic moves, whatever that I'm teaching at the moment, but how and why they're doing it. What they should be trying to feel in their body, how their body should be moving, why it's important to move in these movements, and so I'm just making it super low dough. It's $47 on the early bird pricing. It actually comes out on January 18th, but it's actually up for pre-sale right now at the early bird of $47. It's called Movement for Everybody, Jumpstart to Reclaiming Your Mobility at Any Age. And I just find that people, my age group, I'm talking 50 and over, I'm 61, but that people, when they hit their 50s, if they have not been super active, maybe they've been taking care of kids, adults, their family members, parents, their husband, their spouse, or whatever, taking care of everybody but themselves. And then here they find themselves at age 50 and everything just hurts. And they don't think they can go to a class, or maybe they've tried a class and they've gotten hurt, or they can't keep up, or they're embarrassed to be in there because they can't move like everybody else. And so there becomes this almost fear that they're just stuck. They're just stuck with this body, and it's never going to get any better because maybe they've tried all the physical therapy in the world, or maybe they've done all that stuff that I paid for back in the when I was 50. And I think that my story of restoring all this movement back into my body and getting rid of the stiffness and pain that I had felt, that I thought for sure was never going to go away. I'm hoping that my story inspires them, and that I can help kind of like feel into where they're coming from. And I think that's always helpful when when you feel like the other person has been in your shoes before. It's not some youngster, some 25-year-old personal trainer that's saying, "Oh, you should be able to do this." Instead, it's a 61-year-old woman that said, "Yeah, and I've been in your shoes, and I've felt this pain, and I felt this stiffness. I felt I was never going to be able to move again, or go back and run again, or hike, or do all these things. And now look where I'm at." So that's the purpose of this course. And again, it's going to be digital version. It'll be dripped out starting on January 18th. And I just use a term they probably don't know. Dripping meaning that there'll be one module a week starting on January 18th. So we'll go through the beginning of February. But always encouraging people that if once they go through the first module, if they're struggling, because for some of these people, relearning how their body's designed to move, it just doesn't come overnight, and it's maybe not going to come in a week's time. That they have those modules, they own those modules, and they can go back and keep readdressing the module until suddenly that feels easy before they maybe move on to the next one. So this is really just designed to get those people that know they want to be more active. They know they need to be more active. They just don't know where to start. And so this is their jump start. This is their jumping off point to easing them back into their body and back into movement again, so that they can go back to doing all those things they used to love doing.
Awesome. So let's say somebody hears this podcast in May, and they want to do that course. Will it still be available to them?
Yeah. This we're gonna be we'll be relaunching it several times, and it'll be available for sale. It's just a little higher price when it's not being relaunched at that early bird price, the $47. I think it's a $67 price, but still for 4 modules, 4 hours of instruction, I think even $67 is a pretty reasonable price for. I think most people would pay that going to a yoga class, going to yoga for 4 sessions.
Well, I was just asking to make sure that somebody didn't feel like they missed out if they didn't hear this until June or July of the year.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's available anytime to them. Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. PJ, I love your energy and your laughs. Thank you very much for sharing your story with me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so enjoyable. It's always so good to see your sweet face. I hadn't seen you, and it feels like forever, even though I think it was just a little over a year ago.
It's been a minute though. It's been a little
It
while.
has been a minute. So I'm looking for the day we can all like come back to Fuquay Marina and all hobnob together in your gym and see the whole original strength family. That's such a wonderful group of people out of all the different modalities of strength and fitness that I'm a part of. This is the one group of people I just adore being around because I always feel like all of them just want to make other people's lives better. It's not about themselves, it's about everyone else.
And they make it just feels good being around them, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's really great. Yeah, so I really miss our get-togethers and hopefully in 2021.
Here's to hoping. I look forward to that again as well.
Yeah, yeah, in fact.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend.